Hi everyone, I hope you're well. It's Raymond Woods here from Euro Football Start. Guys, if you've got your microphones on, apart from me and Chloe, can you just please turn off your microphones for us? And we're about to get started on our small presentation. So yeah, a big thank you for everyone who's joining us. If you're not joining us live and you're watching this recorded, also we thank you for tuning in and watching. So we've got our Pro Player Pathway Zoom meeting tonight. We're very lucky that we've got a special guest joining us. We did have our guest change at the last couple of days, unfortunately, due to our other guest unable to join us due to an illness in the family. And then the exciting news is our next Pro Player Pathway Zoom meeting. We're going to be coming live from Wembley Stadium in England, and we've got three special guests who are going to be joining us. Now, today's special guest, and everyone's going to be pleased that we've actually got a Matilda in Chloe Logarzo, and a big warm welcome to you, Chloe, for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, one of the big things, Chloe, we always struggle, and I'm a dad of two daughters, and I'm a big advocate of girls and girls sport. I always have been, even though I've worked a lot in the men's game. We are slowly getting more and more girls onto our programs, and we're getting more involved and getting more girls to join us. I'd like to just open up a little bit about your background and when you first played football and how you first started, and who was your biggest influence? Was it mum? Was it dad? Was it granddad?
Yeah. First of all, my name's Chloe Logarzo. I'm a two-time Olympian. I've played at the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup. I've got 56 caps for the Matildas and I think 9 goals. So I know most of you, probably all of you, probably don't know who I am, but the last year and a half, a year and a half, a little bit longer, I've been injured and out of the Matildas, but making my way back into it. So just wanted to introduce myself before we kick this off. But my pathway into playing, my influence came from my granddad, I would say, from my mum's side, and my dad's side. My granddad's Scottish, and I've got an Italian heritage. And I always joke about the fact that I don't think I was meant to play any other sport but football, because you got Italians and Scottish, and they love their sport. So for me, I started playing when I was 5 years old. And it was just to go down to the park with my twin brother and my older sister, with my mum and my dad as my coach and my manager. And my pathway into the Matildas was a little bit different to everybody else. I was always told that I wasn't good enough or that I wasn't strong enough, and I never made any youth development programs up until the age of 18. In 18, I got my first call up to the young Matildas and captained the young Matildas as my first call up. Then that led me into all of the pathways that then led me to the Matildas.
That's amazing, and thank you for that amazing introduction as well. I was going to jump in and fill in, but you
Sorry.
actually saved me the job to do. No, you're all right. I loved it. It's so much better coming from you. Obviously, it's quite funny that most boys and girls always have an influence, and it tends to be a granddad or sometimes a dad.
Yep.
I can't wait for the day when someone comes on here in the next 20, 30 years and goes, it was actually me mum or me nan who actually first got me into football. And I think we're getting to that point now. There's more and more girls playing the game. Now, one of obviously the big things I noticed when I looked, and I know a little bit and a fair bit about your background and career, but you've been a lot between the US and Australia, and that's one of my biggest loves of all time. So obviously, I had it, I think originally you were played for Sydney around 2011, was that right?
Yep.
To 2015?
Yeah,
And
I debuted.
what was that first experience like when you first played for Sydney?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously when I grew up, women's football wasn't developed like it is right now. So my introduction into Sydney FC came through me moving schools into a sports school called the Hill Sports High School. I actually went to a private school, and I played soccer with one of my friends, and she said that she was going to Hills, and I wanted to have every single part of that. So I left the school that I was at and I went to this sports school, and it was the first time I actually got introduced into proper women's football. My coach at the time, his name was Alan Stajic. He then went on to be the national team coach. But at the time when he was working at the Hill Sports High School, he was the head coach of Sydney FC. And I just remember being in awe, training with all of these incredible Matildas who played at the Hill Sports High School, and thinking that this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I had never seen a representative for women's football and an older female playing. And I didn't even know the A-League existed back when I first started in year 7. So I think for me, being in that experience and having all these experienced and older players who had so much game time and knowledge about the game, I really enjoyed being able to play with them.
That's amazing. Now, you obviously then, I believe you went on to Colorado, was that right? Into the USA, not so long after Sydney. What was that like and how did that come about going to Colorado? Where did that come from? How did you get a club over there?
Yeah, so I went straight to Colorado after I finished high school. So the Colorado came around as it was an Australian coach who had moved over to the US and was doing the W League over in the US and found my contact one way or another. But the program was semi-professional. So I went over to play with a bunch of college kids in their off season in the summer. So I went over there, I stayed with a host family for 4 months. I played the best football I've ever played in my youth development. I scored like 11 goals. I only played 8 games because I had a major concussion. And I won Rookie of the Year in that league. And that was the first time I went overseas. It was the first time I got on a plane by myself and I lived in a different country by myself. It was the first time I drove on the other side of the road. And I had the best time of my life because I was like, this is awesome. I'm getting to do what I've loved. I'm getting a little bit of money to play there, but it was so much fun and it opened my eyes into something that I'd never known before. And for me, it was the taste that I needed to excel into being a professional athlete.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did that really give you the bite once you had that taste for playing in the USA that you were like, right, this is me. I really want to try and travel and play as much as I can around the world.
Yeah, it was the first time that I got a glimpse of what it was like to step into international football and see how girls played in a different style. Because in Australia we have this set style we like to play out from the back, and over there it was all about physicality. It was everything to do with how fit are you, how strong can you be. It wasn't so technical and tactical, but it was definitely gave me a taste of what it really means to have some grit and understanding that football isn't just about technical and tactical. There is, and this is where the US was so far in advance when it came to all of the strength and conditioning and all of the conditioning that it came with playing a game.
Yeah, it blew me away when I spent just over 5 years in the USA, and just the level even college and school football was at. And
Yep.
then especially like the women's game, like I just couldn't believe how strong the women's game
Mm.
was. And I remember we played a bit of a pickup game one night, and I only ever played amateur football. I remember getting turned inside out by 2 girls in
Yep.
California, and it
Yep.
really made me laugh. And I'm like, this is so good.
Uh-huh.
Like these girls can play football, and it's so good to see now that it is the way it is in Australia. Like, I mean, I've just been to football tonight myself with my 10-year-old daughter.
Yep.
She's had an amazing academy in Brisbane. There's nearly 50 girls in there, all
Yep.
training. And for me, some of them are as good as the boys, and one or two, I would put them up against boys as well. It's really, really exciting to see.
Yeah, it's so nice to see the level and how much it's increased from when, I was 10, 11 years old and just the pathways that are available for everyone now.
Now, just for you, Chloe, obviously you've got a lot of experience. You've played pretty much everywhere around the world. You've had probably 10 plus clubs. Was the one club and one coach that really taught you something and really helped you with your development? Something that sticks out in your head that you think that really, really helped me at that moment in time for our boys and girls listening in?
Yeah, I had a national team coach 2 coaches ago. His name was Ante Juric, and he taught me so much about believing in myself. I think I have doubted myself for so long because I was always told that I wasn't going to be good enough. But this was the first time a coach solely believed in myself and put it back on me and said, when you come into camp, you get given a national team jersey. You wear the crest, you wear the green and gold. And then when you leave camp, because it's with the national team, you give back that jersey and you don't know when you're ever going to put it back on. So think about this when you're playing in your domestic leagues, when you're playing for your club, you sign a contract and you say, I'm here for 12 months. But when you come to the national team, it's not like that. You give your jersey back in at the end of camp and you don't know when you're coming back. So the responsibility for you to work hard is on you. It's not on me as the national team coach. It's up to you to be able to work hard to make sure that you come back. And I think that really resonated with me, so that I could work really hard to do the best that I could. And yeah, I think his words have stuck with me for so long, and I think that's what's made me the player that I am today.
I'm so happy that you say that, because we have a program called the Professional Player Pathway, and all of our players who are online tonight, we speak to them about the importance of stuff off the pitch is just as
Yep.
important as stuff on it. And that mental aspect, that mental strength, believing in yourself, not being an imposter, and actually buying into yourself. And it's so, so important. And we worked on it in the Premier League. I've worked for Liverpool, Leicester City. And one of the big things that we've done, even in the women's team at Leicester City, was visualization.
Mm-hmm.
And the first technique we done was visualizing that you're being successful. And it's not necessarily scoring a goal, but maybe just completing a pass to a teammate, or just winning that tackle. And that's what we got them to do. And it was amazing the results we got once we started to work on that mental aspect.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I have a story. So right before the 2016 Olympics, we had a Olympic gold medal volleyballer that came in and gave us a talk before we headed off to Rio. It was a motivational conversation. So she came in and she did a workshop for 4 hours, and every person got a piece of paper and a pen in our team, and we were told to write down an I am. So it could be like, I am strong, I am a finisher, I am fast, I am confident, I am a leader. Whatever you think that you bring to the team, you had to write down. And so I wrote down, I am good enough, because I thought, I'm good enough to be here. So I'm good enough. And funny enough, Emily Gilnick, my business partner, also in the national team, she wrote down the exact same thing. And I'm not lying about this. We didn't sit near each other. We just wrote down the exact same thing. She made us get up in front of the whole entire team and stand up in front of everybody and tell everybody that we are the best. Until we believed it ourselves, we stood up in front of the whole Matildas team and said, I am the best. And it's not out of the idea that we think that we're better than everybody. Because I know that I'm not better than Sam Kerr. I know I'm not better than Mary Fowler, but I work very hard and my traits are amazing. But it was the idea that I had the confidence in myself that on any given day, I will be better than my opponent. And that led us into the Olympics, and the confidence that we had as a team and me individually was incredible. And that was just one mindset switch that we had and a tool that we used. And it's crazy how much your mind can do when your body is like, your body can give up before your mind, but when your mind doesn't want to give up, your body will do unbelievable things.
Yeah, it's so true. We had a saying in the Premier League, and one of my mentors, he said, whether you think you can or you can't, either way you're right.
Yeah.
And I remember being in my mid-20s, and I was like, oh, this is just, it's nonsense. It's just talk.
Yeah.
Now I'm in my 40s, and I'm like, he was so true.
Yeah.
Because very quickly at the age of 40, I'd never run a half marathon in my life. Talk about a marathon.
Yeah.
Roll on 2 years later, I'd run 8 or 9 half marathons, 6 full marathons, and I've run 3 ultra marathons of over 80 kilometers.
Oh my goodness.
And to say that I could run for 80 kilometers without stopping, literally, you'd normally go no. And this is what I say to my players. If I'm an old fart and I can do 80K race, then you can easily make it as a football player if you apply the mentality, the work rate, and the effort. Now, what we're going to do is, everyone who's listening in, we are going to give you an opportunity to ask a question to Chloe, and we'll get you to post the questions into the comments below. In about 5 minutes' time, we'll actually go through some of them questions and we'll get Chloe to answer them as best as we can. But before we do that, I've just got a couple of more I'd like to ask myself now. Obviously, being English, and I'm a big fan of the WSL, and I know you had a short stint at Bristol City, and I've got an affinity with Bristol City. I really, really love Bristol.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about that short stint in England, how that come about, and maybe some of the teams that you got to play against?
Yeah. So my time at Bristol was short, but it was good. It was hard. It was during COVID, so I had a unique weird experience with it. So when I got to the WSL, I was coming in the back end of the season, and the idea to go there was I left my club, Sydney FC, and I decided to go over to the WSL to continue playing in the lead up to the Olympic campaign right before the Tokyo Olympics. And obviously COVID hit and the world shut down, and so did our league. And the Olympics got pushed back a year. So my plan was to play at Bristol for the remainder 4 or 5 months, and then I was going to move on to another club. That didn't end up happening, so I stayed another year. My time at Bristol was unbelievable in the regards that the WSL is probably the best league in the world at the moment. And I don't mean that wholeheartedly. I mean, like, it is literally got the best players there. The level of football and the attention to detail is unbelievable. The facilities that some of the clubs have are, you're spending multi-million dollars on facilities for the women's sport as well. And the players that you come up against, even if they're not national team players, the girls are tough in England. I'm going to tell you that they're really tough, and they taught me a lot. But my time in England was short because the funny thing about football for me is that you have to be happy inside the country that you're living in, as well as being happy with the club that you're playing at. And I didn't have both. I think about my life as a triangle. And I think it's important for you kids to realize this as well, as when you go into living your professional lives, that you're never going to have all 3 points of a triangle. So you're going to give up your family at home because you're going to leave Australia and you're going to go play overseas. So you have your life at home in Australia, then you have your club life, whether you're playing football and you're doing really well, and then you have the country that you're living in. So I always think that you're never going to be happy with all 3 things. I loved playing in America. The football wasn't amazing in the regards of being technical or tactical, but I loved that, and I was good at home. But in England, I didn't love England. That's why you don't live there anymore. But the weather for me wasn't amazing. And look, the style of play and the way that I play was suited America. So I got transferred. An American team bought me out, and I moved over to Kansas City.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And it's true. And it's one of the big things that we do. We open up opportunities for our girls and boys on our program to go and trial into the UK and Europe. In the January, we take them to the UK. In the June, July, we take them to PSG in France. We also take them to Barcelona. The reason why we take them to England in January is to really experience what it's like at winter time, because the 2 things that I notice, everyone always asks me, what's the difference in England in the men's and in the women's game? And I say 2 things, the weather and the toughness of the players. I wouldn't say English players are necessarily technically better than kids who are 12 in Australia at the same age, but it's just that toughness on the pitch and off the pitch. Yeah, the mentality. And I mean, I was very fortunate on this project at the Premier League. I worked with a lot of talented players like Jude Bellingham, Reece James. I even got to work with Lauren James. And I look at Lauren, and I would put Lauren up against anyone on the planet in a 1v1. Like, she's just a machine, because she grew up with an older brother who played professional football. Now, we are seeing lots of questions flying in, and I know you've got to leave us in about 15, 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do is, if it's okay with you, Chloe, I'll start asking a few of the questions, and hopefully we can get some great answers for our listeners. Amazing. So the first question I've got for you is, I like this one. So the question for Chloe, what apps or tools do you use to help your mindset with, or do you use anything in particular to help you with your mindset, to make you be the best and help you with resilience?
Yeah, so I don't use any apps or anything like that, but I have a psychologist that we reach out to every now and then. With the national team, you get resources like that handed to you, and it's the best thing that I could have ever done. Getting a mindset coach, being able to manage my expectations in certain clubs and certain stuff like that, but also having the right people around you. I feel very grateful that I have the best family support. I have the best home life support and friends. And that's also very, very good to help with when I need to deload from football and I don't want to think about it. They're the people that I can lean on. I think it's really important as well as having things outside of football to be able to lean on if something's not right. So I've gone through a lot of injuries, and I've realized that you know, there's Chloe Logarzo, the footballer, and then there's Chloe Logarzo, me as a person. So being able to distinguish those two helps me with my mental resilience, because it allows me to be like, okay, football is this certain part. I need to switch my brain off. I need to go to sleep. I need to get rest, and I can be better the next day. So I would say, like, honestly, get yourself a mindset coach, go see a psychologist, a sports psychologist, um, because it helps so much, honestly.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's one of the things that we introduced in the men's game about 15 years ago. And it was a lot of people like, we don't want to see a psychologist, but it's like, no, trust me, you do. It's like,
Yeah,
it's really, really, it's so helpful. I was literally speaking to an Olympian swimmer at my
yeah,
gym yesterday, and she's in her mid 40s, and she said they got access to psychologists when they went the Olympics.
yeah.
She's in her mid 40s. She still speaks to the same psychologist once a week,
Hmm.
and she's the most switched on, astute business lady you will
Yeah,
ever meet.
yeah.
And it's so important. That was a great question. The next question we've got is from Maya Allsop, one of our other female players. How did you stay motivated throughout the years, and especially with your ups and downs with injuries?
I think the motivation comes from within. Obviously, I love the sport. I wouldn't be here if I didn't love the sport, because honestly, I've had some of the hardest days of my life trying to pursue to be the best that I can potentially be. But I think it's the idea that I want to get better. I know that I have so much more potential to give, and I have so much more to give to the game and to the national team, that it drives me to want to get out of bed every single day. And I feel like I go through memories in my mind of when I was the fittest that I've ever been, and how good I used to feel, you know, when I was 18 years old, some of the tournaments I played, and how that feeling made me feel, how much pride I put on myself, and I give to my family when I put on the national team jersey. I think that's really important, that I give back to them all the years that they've given to me, all the years, you know, my parents, my mum and my dad drove me around up until I was 17 years old and I could drive myself. Um, you know, I dedicate half of my career to them, because I also wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them being able to motivate me, to console me, and see that in me. So yeah.
I love that one you finished on. We've got probably about 200 athletes in our program at the moment. We've got the best parents on the planet. We've got players who are based in Australia.
Yeah,
We've got players based in America, Canada, and I'm the same. I'm one of these dads. I drive my girls everywhere. They
everywhere.
play tennis and
Yeah,
football, and I just want to give them an opportunity. And it's exactly what our parents do. I love our parents on our
yeah,
program because they make it possible.
yep,
Next one, and this is a great one, and it sort of follows on a little bit. Now, I'm thinking back to 2003 to 2008 when I lived in the USA, and I used to
yeah,
look at the women's game specifically. And in the US, then the women's was the best league on the planet. Roll on 20 years later,
yeah,
post COVID, I go to England and see the WSL, and I'm like, wow, like it's gone 10 levels up. And one of the questions that we've got from our parents is, do you think the players need to go overseas to make it as a professional to stay in Australia, or can players stay in Australia? This is one of the very
yeah.
heated conversations we have. But yeah, this particular person would be interested. Do you think it's possible to make it as a pro by just staying in Australia, or do you believe you've maybe got to look at opportunities in the US or Europe?
Yeah, I can't say that there is a right and a wrong answer. Honestly, I can't tell you, but the experience that I've had and the direction where football's going is that to go overseas and understand how different cultures play football, how cultures are in different countries, like how England. So for me, I've played in the US, I've played in Sweden, I've played in Norway, and I've played in England. So I've lived in 4 different countries, and you know, if I could in my career, I would have gone to so many more. But I think to myself that I have learnt so many different things from all those different countries, how they play, the style of how they play, all of the coaches. And I would always recommend to go overseas, because it doesn't just teach you everything that you need to learn on the field. I also think that it teaches you so many life lessons about who you are. You get to go overseas, experience a different culture outside of the four walls of a hotel room and your football field. Um, although everything is developing in Australia and the pathways are becoming incredible. I just think there's so many opportunities over in Europe to be able to develop as a player. And I would strongly recommend, if you have the opportunity, to go overseas.
I love that answer. I love that answer. Next question. Chloe, how did you keep training and working before you made it as a pro? And how did you stay motivated before you made it into a professional academy? How did you keep pushing through and how did you believe that you were going to do it?
I used all of the motivation of my coaches telling me that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't strong enough, and that I wasn't big enough. And I actually used the things that they used to tell me as a guideline into what I needed to work on. And for me, the motivation came from the belief that I wanted to be in the national team. It wasn't easy. I am not the most talented person, but I know one thing about me is that I work damn hard. You know, I would work harder than any single person on my team to make sure that I am where I need to be. And I think that's the one thing that I pride myself on. The motivation just comes from me wanting to be with my friends. You know, if I made it in the national team and then I was dropped from the national team, I wanted to be where all of those people were. So I've just really enjoyed the process. You learn so much about yourself, even through injuries, and they're the hardest things that players have to go through because they're so isolating. I really enjoyed finding out every little part of me, and it wasn't always, you know, fun to be able to do that, but
Yeah,
you learn so much and you can help other people do the same thing.
I love it. Great answer. I love this next one. So this is from Jen. What's your go-to pre-game meal? I love food.
I actually got asked this today, and I love it.
Oh, wow.
It is pancakes, bacon, and eggs and maple syrup. And you can't knock it until you
I love
try
it.
it. Okay, it's the one thing I learned from
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. I remember my first trip and we went to Denny's and my younger brother got
That was
that
my first
exact
place
same
too.
meal.
Yeah,
And I'm like, that's terrible. That's an awful meal. And I tried it and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, this is actually really
yeah.
good.
It's perfect. It's good
So
protein.
full of
It's good
protein,
carbs.
full of carbohydrates.
Yep. Right.
Oh, very good. Next question I've got for you. Were there any differences in your individual and training sessions between Australia and America and England? And if so, can you describe how it changed how you thought about your training?
Yeah, so when I lived in England, it was very much so like technical and tactical. So we relied heavily on, you know, passing drills and understanding the gameplay. But also in saying that, English players are so unbelievably fit. So there was a massive emphasis on a lot of running. But with my team, I didn't necessarily understand the running. It didn't translate into what our gameplay needed to be. I say in Sweden, it's small, tight spaces. They love playing 1-2s. They love playing down the line, crossing and finishing, not necessarily shooting from inside the center area. So I say call the center area the 18 and the 18 inside that channel. And then the difference from that, I guess, is just the technical side of it.
Sorry,
Sorry.
guys, can you just mute your audio, please, guys? We're getting a lot of sound from people. Jackson, can you mute, please? Thank you. Sorry, Chloe, carry on.
No, all good, all good. And just like the way we played. So in England we played a 4-3-3, and when I played in Sweden we played a 3-5-2. So a lot different, a lot of attacking and defending. And in Australia we play a 4-4-2 but a diamond box. It's so different, and all the ways that all the coaches approach their philosophy on how they play is different because they're brought up playing their own system and it normally generates from their national team. But the one thing that I will say is that it gave me more of an understanding from a tactical point of view, and I was able to understand the game a lot more. And it's quite funny because I think I'm a tactical player and I don't watch enough football. Um, you probably tell all of your kids to, go and watch the EPL, go watch as many games as you possibly can. And I will tell you guys that as well, to be able to do that and understand the game. But for someone who doesn't watch that much football, I think because I've played in so many different leagues and we had so many different coaches, it's gave me a better understanding because I've got so much more knowledge.
Yeah, it's such a true one, and we speak about it. I speak about it to my players. We done a study in 2010, and Jose Mourinho was the head coach at Chelsea at the time. And we actually had to do a study on where most of the goals come from in the Premier League. And we studied 100 goals in a row. And 82% of the goals come from the area of a pitch called Zone 14, which is just in front of the penalty box. Now, what we discovered was that 82% of the goals in the men's game in the Premier League were coming down the channels and were getting pulled back. And what was happening was, as the defenders were going towards the goal to defend, the ball was then coming and changing direction. And then it was leading to a shot and a goal. Jose Mourinho pretty much employed that tactic for 5 years in his career, and he won Champions League just doing that. Yeah. And everyone was going on about, oh, he does this, he does that. And that's, I know for a fact, because I had friends who were working at Chelsea at the time, and that's all they'd done. They had one tactic, they practiced it over and over again, and they got really good at it. And teams took 4 to 5 years to work out what they were doing. And it blew me away.
So with the national team, 4 years ago, we did a study, right? So the thing about football that I love so much is that statistics don't lie. Okay, so in the national team, we're heavily reliant on statistics. And before the World Cup, we did the same thing. We looked at statistics and how many goals were scored, and we call it a double box. So in between the penalty spot and the 6-yard line, it's almost like a double 6-yard line. And what we saw from the previous 5 World Cups were most of the goals were scored within that double box zone. So we had one tactic as well. We had the same tactic to be able to, instead of crossing and trying to do that, it was all about getting the ball in that double box as much as we possibly could. And that tactic works for us so well. So statistics and understanding the game and really reading the game properly helps.
Amazing. I love it. Now, we've got 2 more quick questions, and then we're going to talk a little bit about future ballers and what we've got going on with your program over the next 12 months. Now, I like this question, and this is from actually one of my staff members, and I'm actually going to ask this, and he's one of our parents as well. What is the best club in the world in your eyes, and do you have a favourite club you support?
So I grew up supporting Chelsea. I support Chelsea. And
good.
For me, you know, the funny thing is the Chelsea program, women's program, is amazing. They've got unbelievable players, but it was not what I expected it to be. My business partner and friend Emily's played for Bayern Munich, and I think her describing everything that she was given at Bayern Munich, and obviously Germany being an absolute powerhouse in women's football, I look at that club and I look at how incredible they've done for the investment for women's sport and how well they've done in Champions League and how successful that club is. I think it's amazing. For me individually and personally, I think the best club that I've ever played at was in America in for Kansas City. The amount of money and investment that's been put into that. We had our own training facility, multi-million dollars put into the program, and just the standard that's being held there is incredible.
Amazing. Right, last question. Is there a football player when you were growing up that you tried to model your game on? And who was it you looked up to as a youngster as well?
Unfortunately, I didn't have any female footballers to look up to, but the biggest person I think I could say was probably Beckham. Look, the style of the way he played and the passion that he played with and all the adversity he went through, I think for me was something that I idolized. I idolized how well he was able to control the ball, how good he was at free kicks, and the way he moved on the pitch.
That's amazing. Well, good news for you if you're in the USA next year. We're actually going to be running an event with David Beckham in Miami. So maybe if you're available, depends on you playing, maybe you can come and help us and be one of our special guests on stage and get to meet David.
Yeah, well, you've got my number now, so I'll be calling you. Well, when is it next year?
Yeah, it's looking around October, November next year, but I'll keep you and Emily updated because I wanted to have a chat with you about that as well, about maybe joining us.
Yeah,
all right, now to finish off, we want to update our players and athletes and parents, especially our female players. Can you talk to us a little bit about Future Ballers for 2 or 3 minutes and what it is, who started it, who runs it?
So Future Ballers is essentially, it's starting off as a clinic, a one-off clinic, on the 2nd of October in Sydney and the 4th of October in Melbourne. It was born out of the disappointment of Emily Gilnick and I missing out on the World Cup, and how beautiful it was to be able to watch all these young women fall in love with football, and how it has literally catapulted football in Australia for women. So we truly believe in the mental side of football, and this football program that's going to run for 5 hours is obviously some of the best football training there is out there, but we also have a psychologist and a goal setting coach that will be available for 1 hour for every single child that comes to this clinic. And for us, it's honestly about building pathways and allowing young women to feel like they can dream big and have an understanding of what it is to be in the Matildas and what it takes to get to there. And really have the realistic understanding of what it would be like being there, and then being able to build and install all of the great characteristics it takes. Emily and I have gone through so much on and off the field that we want to be able to have a little pack for these young kids to be able to skip all of the heartache and kind of get over the resilience that we needed to, and have a great pack to be able to go into the Matildas and go into life, honestly. So the football clinics are the start, and this is everything that we've loved. It's been 12 months in the process. If you're looking forward to a clinic, it's on the 2nd of October in Sydney. So head over to futureballer.com.au and find out more information about the clinic. But you'll have 2 Matildas there who will be teaching you, and you have all of the A-League coaches there and some of the best coaches in Australia.
Yeah, I love that. One of the big things for all of our listeners, especially the female players in our program, we've shared all of the stuff with Future Ballers on our socials, and we'll continue to do that up until the 2nd of October. Also, again, for all of our female players on the program, we are going to try and do some more partnered work with the girls at Future Ballers, and obviously open up more opportunities, and we'd love to do that. Now, before I let you go, we will share everything in the show notes to everyone as well, and we'll share the links to Future Ballers. Just one of the questions I want to ask as well before I let you go, Chloe, what age groups is it for? And if any of our families have got maybe nieces, daughters who want to join and get involved, is it for everyone, or is it only for the talented players? Who's it for?
Now, the best thing about Future Ballers is it's from 10 to 18, and it is all talent. So the idea that we have is that if you bring a good attitude and you want to be better leaving that day, we will take every single person, because we believe that you make the best player, you make the best person to make the best player. And we will install all of these aspects into this clinic, and we're looking forward to seeing absolutely everyone. And unfortunately, it is only female. It is a only female clinic. But it was born out of the idea from the FIFA Women's World Cup, and Emily and I have so much knowledge about the women's game, and we're looking to inspire and leave the game in a better position than we found it.
I love it. I love it. Now, I have got one more question to ask you before we go quickly, and if I don't ask this, someone's going to kill me. What's your favorite training drill? So growing up as a player, or even as a senior player, is there one particular drill that you really love doing?
I wouldn't say there's a specific drill that I love doing, but I do love passing drills. I don't know what it is. I just love a good basic passing drill. Like this morning, I did a one-on-one session, and it was a 4-cone passing drill with 4 different people. It's just something about the rhythm and getting crisp passing that really makes me feel like an incredible footballer. And I truly believe that if you are able to set up your teammate, and get them the best ball possible, it's a reflection on how you are as a player, and I like to work on that kind of stuff.
I love that. As a coach, my best drills, and I love, is passing drills.
Yep.
Short, sharp, passing. It's the best. Chloe, I seriously cannot thank you enough. I know from me and all the staff and all the players and families, it was an absolute privilege to have you on. So big thank you, and we wish you luck with the Future Baller camps coming up as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And honestly, girls, if you're still on here, I honestly, please, this will be an incredible 5 hours for you to learn as much as you possibly can, to meet some of your stars. And I wish I had this when I was your age. Amazing.
Thank you so much, Chloe. And again, everyone, we're going to share all the information to you. So for any of the girls on our program, also for any family members, you've got nieces, cousins, sisters who want to join, Chloe and Emily, we'll make that happen for you. Also, we've got a bit of a discount code, which we're going to share with you as well, which we thank Chloe and Emily for as well. Now, before we go, we just want to announce as well, guys, our next meeting, we are going to be coming live from Wembley Stadium. We've got actually a Matilda who currently plays for Crystal Palace, and we're going to be going to watch Crystal Palace versus Chelsea in the WSL. We're also going to be going to Manchester City versus Fulham and also to Liverpool, and we're going to be coming live from Wembley Stadium. So we're looking forward to seeing you at our next Zoom meeting. And a big thank you from me and Chloe Logarzo. Thanks, guys, and we hope you have a lovely weekend.
Thanks, guys.
See you, everyone. Thank you.